So again, a scientific proposal is to communicate efficiently innovative plan action using concise and specific language. So it's to learn to write very direct, very clear, and also to have a new idea that is going to bring new research, new innovation, something that is new, something that is different, some result that is lacking. And that's what is going to get us funding, the new part. And of course, we write proposals with the objective of being financed. So we're telling a story to somebody to convince them to give us the funds we need to do our project. So we have to be write very clearly, and the proposals that do not get approved are due to inadequate concepts. It's not clear. The reviewer doesn't understand clearly what they wanted to say. It's not written in a logical, simple form. Poor presentation when it's badly written, which is almost the same, but also they look at bad grammar and bad writing. Poor comprehension of the selection process. What this means is the agency that's going to give us the funding is going to have their own guidelines of what they want to fund. And we have to pay attention, ask, what is going to be your selection process in order to give us funding so that we don't waste our time writing something that is not what they're looking for. So it's good to communicate. And then lack of persistence, that just means that we get rejected a lot. Unfortunately, it takes practice to write a good proposal, like when you're publishing an article as well. So rejection is a common occurrence. Sorry?
Excuse me, everyone. Please let us give the time for our speaker. So kindly turn off your microphones, please.
Okay, I thought somebody else came. Anyway, so we have to make a report in a precise and concise language. And that's what I was saying at the beginning. It's easy to say, but it's not easy to do, especially when it is English, which is not our native language. The research has to be important, innovative, and important because important for what? For the economy of the country, for the growing of coffee, for betterment of the coffee, for the sustainability. It has to have something that is persists beyond your research. So you have to have convincing language. And as I was saying before, it has to be innovative. It has to be something new about it. Even if it's a simple installation of new monitoring of coffee plantations, that is going to bring something new and useful to the community, to all of us. And there is pertinent. I was saying that it is pertinent to the area you're working with, and it's pertinent to, it's going to give us results that are going to persist and be useful in the long term. Why is this? Why it has to be pertinent? Because the agencies that are going to give us the funding want their money to go to something that's going to have an impact. We're going to talk about impact. That is going to have something that is useful for the future, something that the community could take advantage of, or have a new knowledge of the field. So, but the research has to be feasible. So with the proposed methodology, with the proposed budget, no more or less than what they are offering, these two are hand in hand. Oops, sorry. The methodology, we know the methodology we're going to use because we are doing the project, we are proposing it, we supposedly are knowledgeable and experts in the field, but the budget has to adjust the methodology. So when we're going to do field trips, when we're going to do study the germs to implant, when we're going to monitor the growth of coffee, how much money do we need to do what we're proposing to do? It has to be no more or less. And the reviewers are going to make sure that uh, you are not proposing methodology that is going to require a lot more funding than they are willing to do, because then their funds are not going to are not going to be successful in the conclusion of the project, in the full carrying out of the project. And then with the personal history, it is important for the reviewers also that you demonstrate that you can do this. So it's not just a matter of, okay, well, I had this idea, I'm going to study these new implants, um, but well, I don't know how to do it, but I'll learn the way. No, the reviewers have to kind of have a personal history of your experience. And if you're not experienced in this particular new methodology you want to use, or this particular experiment, you attach yourself to a good team. So having a team like you already see, like, to be in teams because you are in universities and groups of research. So if you personally don't know how to do a particular technique, a particular study that you want to do, you have a good team to back you up. And if you have preliminary data, your team has preliminary data, somebody that you're associated with in the proposal has done this before or has had some partial results, that will almost assure you funding. So that's what I'm trying to do, is that the reviewers are going to make sure that you can do what you're proposing to do, and that you can do it with the time and the money that they're going to give you, because for them it's an investment. They don't want their money to go to waste. So that's why we do it, and that's why we have to learn to do a presentation that is coherent and logic. We go through general objectives, specific methodology, one by one, very detailed and organized. And it's something you already know how to do, but you have to put it in a language that is easy to read and clear. Um, so how do we find a team? Most of you, we already received 18 proposal titles. So, it could be laboratory research, previous experience that you have to do this. Discussion with peers in your teams, in university, in your groups. Is there a question? No. The tech research needs, preliminary data, as I was saying, this is very important. If you could have or associate with somebody that has preliminary data, then you have detected that further research is needed to answer this particular question. Recent publications, new ideas, hypotheses, working with a good team. I apologize again. Um, I keep moving it. So the reviewers are going to see if you have made a recent review of the literature, because many times we propose ideas that had been done. Like, we thought about it a year ago, and it took us a year to get the funding and write a proposal and all this, and then it turns out somebody already did it. But the reviewers, when they get the proposal, are going to do a literature research, and they are going to know if your ideas are you are up to date with what is being published, and make sure that what you're proposing hasn't been done. And from those recent publications, or all the publications you've read, you're going to get new ideas, you're going to form your hypothesis, and you're going to be working with a good team. And And the project grants, they have their own priorities for financing agencies. So I've been told that some people are going to be receiving grants. There is no specific guidelines, but other people is going to apply to the government. So you need to make sure that you know what the guidelines of the government are, or whoever is going to give you the funding, what is their priority, what it is that they want to fund. I'm going to repeat myself a lot during the talk because it's just certain topics I want you to remember. Um, so don't be too ambitious. You must be realistic about being able to complete a project within the time grant frame and having the right contracts to establish your collaborations. So again, you have to be realistic uh, and match the time with the budget and with the methodology you're going to use. It must interest you a lot because it's you're going to be working in this topic for a long time, and I don't think that's a problem for you. Mainly that choose a topic that you're passionate about. That is going to come through in the proposal. Your enthusiasm for what questions need to be answered or you want to answer. Be realistic, so establish objectives that are feasible and clear methodology of to achieve those objectives. So you're going to have a general goal and specific objectives. And for each objective, you're going to have the methodology you're going to use to reach it. So the methodology has to be clear. It has to be in detail, and it's usually the longest part of our proposal. We're going to explain exactly what we're going to do. The reviewer has to be convinced that you know what you're doing and that you're doing it right. Um, well, um, present your academic background. Uh, as we said before, experience is important. And set indicators that the objectives are going to reach for that are replicable, that answer the scientific method, that this indicator, this product, this answering of the objectives that you're going to set to a study are going to leave indicators uh, that are replicable according to the science. Okay. So defining the project, for example, what is a hypothesis? The quality of coffee will be enhanced by using endogenous organisms in the fermentation of Arabica coffee. That's one idea you have. I made this up. Some of you are going to see, all of you are going to see that I use words from the projects you sent, the titles you sent, but it could be wrong. I just want to have an example. This is a hypothesis you're going to prove that if you use these organisms, it's going to improve the fermentation of the coffee. Or if it's methodological, you're going to introduce a spay remote sensing as a monitoring and management tool for coffee plantations, which is one of your proposals. So it's a method you're going to introduce, and you're going to say, not a new method, but you're going to explain the method. What is the method? It's a spay remote sensing as a tool. Not say we're going to have a new method of monitoring. It has to be explained what it is. And then there's descriptive or the generating applied hypotheses. Investigate the role of seedling containers in the plant vigor of coffee ground in the nursery. Usually, those are the ones that we most see. Descriptive, where we're investigating, we're doing research with different seedling containers, or we're doing research with different conditions, different areas, different villages, different kinds of coffee. So that's the general projects that are presented. So then when you have your idea formed, you start writing down your ideas. Just write down your ideas without worrying about, at this point, about grammar or spelling or anything. But identify the key references. Everything you say in the proposal has to be referenced. You cannot say, oh, this methodology that we're going to implement for monitoring is a very good methodology that's been proven. No. The reviewer is going to want to know who, created the methodology, what is this methodology, and who applied it somewhere else, what exit or success or failure they had, references. Every sentence you say in the introduction and in the presenting of the problem has to be backed up by a reference. You cannot be doing general sentences and not having a backup. And this backup is important because it's going to give you strength to your proposal. It's going to make your proposal that is something that's really needed. So the reviewer is going to read the references and it's going to realize that yes, there is a need to do this work because it's not known. It's not known what you want to do. It's not known what effect the microorganisms will have. It's not known how this monitoring will work in these parts of the Philippines. So the references, keep them with you at all times in a very practical way, because when you write the introduction, which is the last thing you write, and I'll talk about that in a moment, you're going to use specific references that are going to make you arrive or demonstrate how you arrive to the question you're going to ask. Demonstrate there is a void, there is a need to do this because these references say this has been done, but it has not been done in our conditions in our country, or it hasn't been done ever, or we want to investigate this new idea or this new organism. The outline of a research is usually this. You have a question and a hypothesis, which is what we've been talking about, how you have that general idea. And then you have to set 2 or 3 or 4 specific objectives. So if you want to do let me know if there is a question, Donella. I sometimes hear something. So the specific objectives are going to be, okay, so we're going to introduce these new microorganisms. So how many plants we're going to use, how we're going to set up this study. Actually, how many plants will be the variables, but the objective is if we're going to study these particular plants in this condition to see what is the result. We are going to study different organisms to see their impact in the growth. Different objectives that are to answer the big question, which was this hypothesis was that these cultures are going to improve the crop. And then the variables and the methods are specifically how many plants you're going to study, how many regions you're going to monitor, and then and that will take you to the methodology. So these are the longest part of the proposal. Then you start saying, we are going to sample these many areas and we're going to select these areas by this method, statistically or at random or not. And then we're going to analyze these results by this methodology. So you have to imagine you're already doing it, that you're already in the field doing the work you're proposing, what variables you're going to study, everything, how you choose, how you start, who you train, and what methodology you're going to apply, just in the laboratory or in the field, and which, depending how you use your variables, you select your population of the study, is the analysis method you will need. You will need statistical methods to, if you want to say this is statistically significant. We cannot say this is significant if we didn't do statistically at the beginning. So you're going to need some statistical person that knows, that can advise you if you're not an expert on this, that can advise you which will be the best methodology to analyze your data later on. So this is usually the actually the body of a proposal. There is a title, which will be the last thing we write, an abstract of about 500 to 3,300 words, no more. The abstract is going to summarize everything. A general objective or hypothesis, what is your main goal? And the specific objectives, I'm sorry, um, which are the steps, the little steps you're going to achieve to obtain the main method. And then you're going to have a justification why, which is what you're basing on the research, literature research that you did, and how you came to your question. What is the need? What is the need to do this project? So you're going to present it at the end of the introduction. You're going to say, because this has not been done and is demonstrated by this other literature review we did, which is the latest review. And then this is the need. You have to justify why. Why is it important? And then the impact. Not only why is it important, but so what? What's going to happen once you do it? You have to tell the reviewer that, even though for you it might be obvious, you have to tell the reviewer, well, this is going to have great consequences for the growth of coffee. This is going to have great consequences to make it more sustainable. This is going to help train people in the field. This is going to bring technology to our laboratories. And the results are going to help better growth. You know better than I do. I am a microbiologist. So that's the impact versus justification, the consequences, the after. And then the methodology addresses the potential weakness of your method. So we always have weaknesses that it's better if we say them up front. So like we're gonna sample many fields, but not enough because for the fun. So we say this study is gonna be small, maybe a pilot, because the budget doesn't allow us to cover all the area we want, or this technique is the first time we try, and it's been proven to work in these conditions. We're going to use this. Sometimes you use equipment that is not available or it could break down. So you said if they were to break down, we can collaborate with this other university, etc. So you address your weaknesses when you are already in your mind doing your research and writing your methodology. And then the timeline and chronogram. So if they're going to give you funds for 1 year, then you have to adhere to that year, and then say week first we're going to train people, week second we're going to visit the field, week third or first month we're going to prepare all this, we're going to set up a new technology in the laboratory, first 3 months, and then the other 3 months we're going to actually do the work, and then the last months we're going to be analyzing the data. So you have to give time and chronogram to do the analysis of the work as well, so you can have valid results. Is there a question? No. Okay. So and the budget that goes with the chronogram and the methodology, it all has to fit. But you know how much it costs, and you know how much time it takes to do the work you do. That's why you have to have experience to write a proposal, so that the reviewer believes that you know what you're doing. And that's also reflected in the budget. It depends how much money you request to do this particular experiment. And you have to justify each item, unfortunately, which is kind of like a sad part of when you're writing the budget, because it's not easy to decide how much funding you need, but you also have to justify, we need to make field trips. We need gasoline, we need vehicles, we need to train technicians. We are going to do a larger study. We need sampling. We need this amount of money for the reagents we need. We need this particular monitoring device that is going to cost this much, but it's going to is essential, it's necessary for the project, and it will stay after we do our experiment, our research, our project. Then it will be an asset to the team, etc., etc. Anyway, so that's what contains in a proposal. And I'm gonna leave this talk with you. You probably already know and you already wrote it, but I'm just kind of repeating. I was talking about the title, and the abstract is the first thing that the reviewers see. So you have to make it attractive. But it's the last thing you write, the title and the abstract, because you are narrowing down your goals. You have a general objective, specific objectives, you do the methodology, and at the end of writing the proposal, you know what is that you can do and what is the new thing you can contribute to science. That new thing, don't hide it. Put it up front and say, this proposal is gonna give us this new methodology. You know, you have to imagine that you did it and it was a really good result. We have to be very optimistic at this point. We don't know what the research will give us. We don't know what the results would be. We don't know if it all gonna work. As we know in science, it doesn't always work. There's always problems. So at the end, we write a traffic title that has the new findings, possible findings, as to just attract the attention of the reviewer. And in the summary, in the abstract as well, you're gonna say we're gonna do this methodology, and it's gonna be novel in our country or in our group, and it's gonna make things a lot more, make growth a lot more productive. And then you have your working title, and then you continue as adapt it and refine it as you go. So when you start writing a proposal, you don't have it all clear, and the process of writing helps you a lot to narrow down and clear your ideas. And also, it's also good to discuss it with your colleagues and your team and say, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And sometimes we're in the wrong, and we have to admit it, that it doesn't make sense, but our colleagues help us narrow down and say, what is really needed is this has been done because I read some article. Anyway, so we go and refine it as we write it. And then this is a table of contents of what the proposal have. Project novelty and contribution to the subject. There's usually a section at the very beginning. What is the contribution of this project? The rationale or justification, as I was saying, this is important because it's gonna bring great things to our country, to our team. I apologize, I keep jumping on these slides. Proposed work, the detailed methodology, expected results already, which are linked to the impact of the result, the technical advance, the new findings that you're gonna have for the field of science, for the coffee community, or for your country. So you already have to imagine that you did it and that you have this impact. This is going to convince the reviewer to fund you. Demonstrate the project feasibility at the scientific, technical, and logistic levels. So again, logistics. The methodology and the objectives have to be feasible and logic and in a logical sequence. You first do this and then do that and then do the other. The latest bibliographic references, the latest review, and specific considerations if there is any. So the evaluators are experts on the research in the field, but they're not specialists in the exact theme you're proposing. So that's what it helps if you provide a logical sequence of the experiments you're going to propose, the project you're going to propose, in interventions you're going to use, and try to use clear, efficient, and concise language, especially in English. The language is we will do, it will be in the future. We propose to do so and so by this methodology. And you don't have to go around introducing things again. You introduce it in the introduction, and then to complete this methodology, to complete this objective, we will use this methodology, and we're going to do this and this and that. Like you're telling somebody with enthusiasm what you're going to do in a very simple and direct language, concise. The reviewer doesn't want to be confused. It loses interest and it says, no, this is not worth funding. When it's not clearly stated what you want to do in a logical step by step by step. And that disencouraged them. That's why at the beginning, one of the reasons why projects are not funded is because of lack of clearance or bad writing. So you get the help of somebody that knows how to write better. And then you convince them that it's feasible and it's relevant and it's in a coherent way. You have to convince your reviewer, and then respect the indicators of the application. Pay attention what are the guidelines, restrictions, space allocation, and budget limits. Ask the agency is going to fund you if they can supplement salary, especially about the budgets. If they are going to fund gasoline for the vehicles, if they are going to fund travel to get experience or to bring an expert, because in the proposal we can say we are setting up this new technology and we're going to invite the expert that successfully used it in another country to come and teach us how to do it. So will that be funded by the agency? How much trips can you do? How much vehicles you can use? Can you hire assistants, because you cannot do this alone, and you're going to have to pay some students or some technicians or some experts to help you do this work. Are they willing to pay? So ask and pay attention to the guidelines so that you are not writing in the void and then lose your time asking for funds that are not going to be given to you. So here we have original contribution. In the introduction, you're going to have the general objective, the hypothesis, the main idea, the frame of reference that gave you to come to this hypothesis or problem, and the specific objectives that are going to help you answer that general objectives, that problem or that hypothesis. Usually you don't write that. Sorry, is a question? No. Usually you don't write it as a hypothesis. It's just a problem or the general objective that you are going to try to achieve or to prove. And a proposal, you generally don't have a hypothesis as a subtitle. So here's the general objective. It's an original contribution. So it's expected results, the general goal, and you will set up the theoretical background of the topic and the problem background in literature. And the problem identification could be also done by previous data that you have demonstrated that there is the need for continuing this project or to do some other studies. And then you define the project objectives. And, oh my God. And the novelty, again, is very important. So a general objective would be, and again, I took from you, a broad intention, but realistic of the project, a finite result. Specific objectives must be clearly described as a project step by step. So for example, augmentation among key players through all-inclusive and participatory formal education or project PACAPE. This is one of your titles. I really just made it up. but it's an example of a general objective. You want to do this. This is your, and looks very novel. You want to be all inclusive and the participatory for the education on this project. And then a specific objective is going to be how you're going to make that happen. Oh my God, I apologize. So you're going to review the project, PACAPE, with the educators, with the member of the communities, where it is augmentation of among the key players through all inclusive participatory from education is going to happen. How are you going to make that general objective a reality? What steps you want to take? Where you're going to start? What what you're going to do? What population you're going to use, etc., etc. So it's just an example, a bad example of what I made up from your presentation. So here we go back. We're going to talk about the introduction for a little bit. We introduce the subject in a general way. And I want to say here, the introduction has to be 3 or 4 paragraphs, maybe 5. Has to be short. When we're writing and when we're writing the introduction, if we start by the introduction, we write introduction and we review literature and we review literature and we find this important article, this thing we could do, and then we have an introduction that's 3 pages, 4 pages, and the reviewer just got bored and left. So we have to make an introduction short and to the point of what we're going to study. So we're not going to review the whole subject of education, participants in the world and in other countries. No, we're going to introduce what it is in general terms, or what is the importance of epidemics in the growth of coffee around the world or in this area, on Southeast Asia, whatever. And then we're going to start being more specific, because there's plagues that affect these varieties of coffee, and we propose to we've observed, and this is the literature review of the problem, and then you're going to demonstrate what the void is, what is it needed to do, and the impact and the justification of why you're going to do it, and here is how you're going to do it. So very simple. In 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, you can explain the reviewer what is your topic, general problem, what is the literature says, what is the void, what is the need, what is the novel thing you're going to do, how you're going to do it, what you propose, do it. So the first paragraph of the general introduction could be like, there's a great demand of worldwide for good quality coffee production. And some of the best quality coffee is produced in small village farms. So this way you introduce already, you're not talking about all the coffee produced in the world, but you're just saying you're going to try to improve the quality of the coffee. So you start there. There's a great demand for good quality coffee. And then because you're going to study implementation of villages to make it more sustainable, or some sort of monitoring, then you say one of the best quality coffee, and you repeat the important parts, is produced in small village farms. And there, from there you go and says there's not methodology in the farms. This is what has been done in other parts, and you present the literature. So you go from the general to the specific, but it's not so general as to lose the reviewer. So my apologies again. I don't know how to use this computer. Where am I? Okay. So then you go and study the background and the importance of this topic, and a summary of the critical findings are going to come next. Critical review of the results from others, approach contradictions that some researchers have found this, but some other researchers have found that. So we need to do this experiment. Don't forget your own work. If you have related work, you are going to put your own references. This is very important. Don't be shy, or a reference from the team. And if you were to know who's going to review it, it would be very smart to put references from the reviewer, but that's not always easy to know. We don't know who's going to review our proposal, but if you were to have an idea which agency and where this team works, then try to find some of the reviewers' papers that have been published, and that just kind of remember, we're selling this. We want them to give us money, so this will kind of arouse their interest. Mention other sources. If you have sources from the university that are complementing this proposal, this project, it's very valuable for the agency giving you the funds. So it's, instead of hiding it, you mention it. You cannot say the university is going to fund the laboratory, the space, the vehicles, and we just need we have all this. We have all these resources. So it makes you more convincing that you can do it. You already are ready to go. You have what is needed. You have the methodology. You have the laboratory. You have the personnel to do it. So mention the resources you have, put annexes if you want, of what publications or what methodology you achieve, what collaborations you're going to have with experts, and arrive to the product in a logical way, so that you're going to already start introducing your general why is important references. For example, why could be good quality of coffee production. So good quality of coffee production is important. Why? You have to back it up, remember, with references. The unknown, oh my God. Specific summary of why is not very well characterized in X. So there's good quality coffee production, which is why, but it's not well characterized, or it could be improved references, not well characterized here, or this methodology could be used for small villages. Okay, and so if you can reference to other people that use big villages or small villages, then you arrive to the question. Therefore, we propose to characterize good quality of coffee production in these villages, in this number of cases during this period of time. And you have references to say what is it you're going to do and what the basis for that. Why is it important? And then how you're going to do this? By this methodology that we're going to apply. And sometimes you use references for the method because it's already been described by somebody. So you don't invent it, out of the blue. You have basis to use this method that's been used before. Or if you're gonna develop a new method or adapt it, you say what is being done before or what is known so far in that case. Okay, so then we come to the specific objectives. Concrete measures of qualitative or quantitative to respond to the question expressed in this hypothesis. Direct activities of the proposed work. Guide the evaluation of fulfilled goals, to how you're going to fulfill the goals. So you have a list of objectives in chronological sequence or logical flow, objective 1, 2, and 3. So you start from the beginning, right? If you're going to study villages, what villages you're going to select, and what are you going to answer by studying these. Objective 2 is the methodology you're going to introduce, how you're going to go about introducing it. And then objective 3 is how many people are going to train to this methodology or in these different places, and how you're going to go about recruiting all these people and actually doing the work. So in order of time, where you begin and where you end. And here we have the justification, the problem relevance, why the research is important and why the research must be done. You have to document it. It seems like I'm repeating myself, but I am. Indicate the statistical data that supports your case. So provide examples. The need uh, is because, this has been done, for example, in other places, and what statistical methodology you're going to use, um, or what data has been published that supports your case, and why your research is different from what is being done. I don't want to touch the arrow because it moves it. So different. What has been done up to today that it hasn't been done yet? And what is the innovation? Just sanitary, social, ecological, what new opportunities you're going to create. It could be anything that you're going to create with your research. And the if the innovation could be applied internationally, regional, national, local opportunity, either all of them are valid. So you you apply all the innovation that you can find in different ways, and our hope offer hope to the reviewers on how your project will make a difference and how you will contribute to solve the problem. So you're going to present a problem, and then you're going to provide the reviewers with the explanation on how and why your project will make a difference. What is new, what is different, how you're going to solve this problem. So this, you have to be clever, and you have to present how you're going to solve this problem in a clear, concise, feasible way with the budget you have. So use figures or maps only when they contribute to the justification, like an incident curve for a proposal, but it's a map that is essential to show the area is going to be covered, but it's not encouraged to show many maps or figures. So when we're doing a laboratory experiment or a research in the lab, you don't need to put photos or figures. It's better not to use them, but only when it's really necessary. Um, like you want to explain a methodology, maybe a sketch is easier, or a figure that shows it, rather than explain many paragraphs what it does. And the figure should be self-explicative and clear to see. So you're going to put a map. You have to explain what is the location, what are the coordinates, why you're showing this map, what is important for the area, what is showing, what the map is showing in this particular photo or graph. And avoid tables or figures previously published. So instead of copying figures or tables from another work, which is not allowed, you just reference. You just say the publication of Smith et al. Shows in table 2 that these results contradict the results of other person. Or this figure in Smith et al. Publication, there is a figure that explains why this methodology worked or how it was applied. You just mention what you're going to do and reference. You do not copy tables and figures, not when you're doing a proposal and not when you're publishing your data. Never, never, never. So just reference. So then the proposed work, parallel activities for each objective, only for the proposed objectives. So the activities could be divided by chapters, and depends on the time of proposal, the type of proposal. You're going to have a pilot study, training, intervention, and follow-up of a community, validation of a methodology, sensibility and specificity of your results. So you're going to have explain each by one in chapters. And Um, Sometimes when we start, we have a lot of objectives and we put many activities in the objectives, and it doesn't read good. It has to have maybe 4 objectives, but 6, 7, 8 objectives it's not feasible, and it doesn't summarize well what you want to do. So just make sure that the objectives are clear and realistic, and just what you need to answer the general objective, what answer what you want to do, and do not go over the budget. And if you can include more information, if you don't want to use tables and figures, you can then do annex it at the end, and say if you are interested in these tables and figures, they are in a separate folder at the end. So so you can include some tools, surveys, maps as an annex, and the reviewer can go there or not. Involve a statistician. This is very important. As I said before, we can put it in the budget that we're gonna seek the assistance of a person that can explain to us what kind of analysis we do, what kind of methodology we're gonna use, what kind of sample we have to take, so the research is valid. It is very important because when we finish the proposal and we're analyzing the data and we realize that we didn't include enough, or we include too many and we don't have time to analyze this, or what we analyze doesn't make sense because it doesn't have a control group or it doesn't have a control population, then we have lost a lot in doing so much work that at the end it's not valid for publication and it's not valid for the agency that give you the funding. So it's important to have the good analysis of your proposal, of your data, and include somebody that can advise you. It's a complex subject that cannot be explained in a conference, but it is very important. Many times we do writing proposals of manuscripts, and it doesn't make sense, and the person cannot publish it because it doesn't have the correct controls and the correct sampling. So then the proposed work, definitions and background, then you actually start doing what area you're going to study, what population sample, what epidemiological design, if it's applied, what is the index, what are the variables, what are dependent variables, intervention. It's intervention. So it depends on the type of work, is the type of I got lost again. So so the proposed work, we have the methodologies from the general, and then you have a subtitle when you're going to explain this method. So you're going to have, to guide the reviewer, you're going to have population study, if it's a new method, space remote sensing, and then you explain what it is. And you don't say, we're going to use a space remote sensing as described by Smith et al. No, you have to say, we are going to develop this model that was developed by Dr. So-and-so and the reference. Oh, this model was first described and so and used and so and so. So it all has to be referenced, but explain to the reviewer a little bit. You cannot just say, we're going to do a new modeling in the villages to increase sustainability, and you don't know what the new model is, and then you put the reference. So the reviewer has to go to the reference to find out what it is that you're going to do, what new method you're proposing, and that loses the reviewer. So explain the methodology. we are going to use this type of modeling, which is by spatial remote sensing, published by so and so in the reference, but you explain what it is. So then you can reference your previous papers if you have related methods that you will use. But it's not clear if you say method already described will be used in reference 9. But it's better to say space remote sensing described by so and so will use to be monitored. So when you're explaining the methodology, you have to be a little bit more specific. You don't have to explain everything, but you have to explain some of it, name it, describe it in few words so that the reviewer knows what you're talking about, what is that you're going to do. Even the reviewer is not familiarized with this method, it will know what it's about. And it doesn't have to go to the reference because you didn't explain it when you describe the methodology. So you describe briefly the protocol. So there is expected results, and as I tell you, I was telling you over and over again, you're going to think that you're already finished. So list precisely the expected results of the project at the end of the project for each individual and their global impact, implementation of management strategies for pests and diseases will increase the sustainability of coffee production by. So you imagine you did it and that you implemented it and that you will manage pests and diseases. You're going to increase sustainability of the coffee by this and that. So you have to already have the expected results. It's kind of unfortunately and counterintuitive that you have to have finished the proposal in your mind and you have to say what results you are going to obtain and why those results are important. So you're going to implement these strategies and we're going to control the diseases and we're going to increase sustainability by this and that. So that's just a general example I made up. And you organize them in the same sequence as your aims and activity. So the expected results go in the same logical order that you listed your objectives, your specific objectives. And the impact, I'm going to talk a little bit more about impact in the other talk, but the impact is what happened after you do your research. So impact is for the future. The best baseline of what it was is the pre. Once you do your project and you have your results, you're going to have an impact of what happened after the fact. So even for the country, the region, and the institution. It could be, for example, knowledge, as simple as knowledge and abilities acquired, technology developed or incorporated in a group and a team in the country, human resources formation, diffusion and publication, training in the villages, training in methodology in the laboratory, transference of the methodology from one area to the other, training people in the field. You know better what all the things you can achieve once you have a methodology established. Train students, possible thesis are going to come, or thesis students that join the project. So there's many kinds of impact. It doesn't have to be only related to the particular experiments you did, but it could be all the lateral good things that come with doing the proposal. So that would be part of your impact. And then you have the scientific, technical, and logistical feasibility of the project. So in the academic, you might experience a background of the subject from the candidate, the team, and the institution. Location, infrastructure, adequate equipment, logistics of access to primary and secondary data. That is when you propose to review a study retrospectively and you have to review data that is being done, data sets that maybe the government has, and you have to show that you have access to this, that you have easy access or you requested it. Time and budget consistent with the objectives. Institutional administrative capacity for the funding. So that is viewed by the reviewers. This is kind of like the important part of showing that you can do it in different ways. So you have the background, you have studied this, you have worked with this, you have did a thesis on this, you are doing your thesis, you are associated with this team, you are in an institution that has done it. There a question? No, you can interrupt me and ask questions. The location, where you're gonna do you have the adequate equipment? Logistics of access to primary and secondary data. As I say, when you have databases. Time and budget of the consistent with the objectives. Infrastructure, do you already have the laboratory? Do you have the vehicles? Many people propose things and they don't even have a laboratory. That's happened to us in a previous workshop we did. You have to show, and that's what you show in the budget as extra, or you explain that you already possess a laboratory, vehicles, technicians, and then you're going to train more. And the administrative capacity, that means that you have to have an institutional account for sending the funds. You are not going to receive the funds personally. So it goes to an institution. The institution is going to have administratives. You might have to pay a percentage of your funding for this institution. You manage your funds. So you're responsible for your funds and you're responsible for reporting, but you have to have that support of some institution that is going to run your accounts and receive the funding. So limitation of weaknesses, I was saying that it's better to say them. Scientific, technical, and logistics. So probability of particular general things that happen. There's just some examples that you have to mention. Sequential activities, if one of the first fails. So when you make activities that one is depending on the other, it's kind of dangerous because you say, we're going to obtain this data, and with this data, we're going to do this other thing, and this other thing, we're going to implement the method, and then why if you cannot obtain the first data? So don't make one depending entirely of the other, and make sure that the first thing you propose it's easy to do and it's feasible. Like if you're using a single device throughout the country, and if it breaks and it's in the only machine that you have, which it happens sometimes with sequencers, then there's only one in the country, you have to line up. And if you propose to sequence many genomes, then if it breaks, then you cannot do the project at all. So you have to have a backup, like saying you will send it to be sequenced overseas, which is not very expensive these days. If extraordinary rains happen as the previous year, how are you going to contend for that? So you have to have alternative regions in where it doesn't rain as much to do the study. So it's not only depending on that region that you're not going to be able to reach because of the heavy rain. So it's better to compare other regions. Or if there's social instability in the region, have alternative regions in mind. Of inflation, sometimes inflation goes up really fast, and then your funds don't cover for inflation. You always leave like a 10% inflation, but well, that is something you cannot control. Also, if a meteorite comes and there's nothing you can do. I jumped again, so sorry. So just mitigate possible difficulties, make it more feasible and more flexible to do. The reference, according to the format of scientific publications, only relevant. The logical numbers is from 10 to 30, no more. That means then this too extensive for a reviewer to follow. And check with the text and or other proposals, how many they accept. And if you have all the reference you need, sometimes we eliminated a method and we left the reference. So we have to correct for that. So when we're doing the methodology, reviewing the objectives, review that the references match so that the reviewers don't get lost. And if you have your own reference from the team or from the possible reviewers, that is always a plus. And you have to have ethical, environmental, intellectual property considerations. So now each country has their own ethical considerations. Sometimes you have to present uh, a form to be able to do the study if you're going to go to a village or populations. Sometimes there's environmental conditions that you have to observe and protect and abide for. Make sure the intellectual property usually goes to the university, but that you have part of it. And that goes very much at the beginning with who is the main person that's going to do the proposal. So those are just special considerations. Um, the chronogram timeline is in the same order as the number of activities by stage and by month. I was saying to you, first month, first week, first 3 months, we're going to do this. Second month, third month, fourth month, we're going to do the other. If more than one institution is involved, then clarify who is going to be doing what. So sometimes in the chronogram, we have two alternatives, two columns. And one says, our group or the investigator is going to do this. And at the same time, in the same parallel to them, another group is going to be doing the other. Or we're collaborating with this, or this team is going to do this part and this other team is going to do the other part. So it is okay to combine teams as long as you explain it chronologically who is going to be doing what. So you're going to be developing one technique at the same time. The students or another investigator is going to be setting up uh, the test in another region, or you're going to be comparing with what the expert is going to say. So you explain in the chronogram if more than one institution is collaborating, and include time for reporting and monitoring, at least as often as requested by the agency. Usually they ask for a report every 6 months. Find out who the agency is going to fund you, if they want to report every 6 months or once a year, or if it's only for a year and no reports. If you have to present reports, sometimes every 3 months, which is a pain, I mean, it's really too much. You have to send in the chronogram, set the time, and said after 6 months, prepare in a report, prepare midterm report, and you give yourself a month or whatever is needed in the chronogram, and then that's important to have. And also the chronogram will show that you're familiar with methodology because you know how long it takes to do different things. So that also tells the reviewer, yeah, this person knows what he's doing because he or she knows that this takes 2 months instead of 1 week, or this takes a week instead of 2 months. You will know your own methodology. There is cover letters of intent that you have to present. Letters of recommendation. I don't know how much you will need this, but for grants for the NIH in Washington or the government, many times they request letter of recommendation from your professor, from your boss, from the head of the team. You have to have letter from the collaborators. So if you're going to collaborate with a foreign investigator that has a technology that you want, or it's going to help you analyze the sequences and you're going to send samples somewhere else, or it's going to agree to collaborate with you as an expert, you have to have a letter from this person. So this person is going to collaborate with you. You have to have a letter saying, yes, I agree to collaborate with so-and-so in this project, and it's presented to the agency that requested it. And then you're going to have a resume or CV of all the people that are going to involve. They're going to request that, and that way you show the expertise is real. Instruments and surveys or protocols, you're going to add as an annex. Ethical committee if needed. I don't know if the coffee community requires ethical committees, but we are always, when we're doing experiments, we require ethical approval. We're working with mice, we're working with populations, even just analysis, epidemiological analysis, we need ethical committee acceptance. Partnerships and codification manuals, this all goes into the annexes at the end as an extra. So here's how it's going to be reviewed: the quality, the creativity, the originality, and the potential for discovery. That's what the agency is going to look for. And if it's well written, if it's logic and rational, in good order, the background of the group, how experienced you are, literature that supports what you want to propose. So if it's feasible, if it's needed, and clarity. It's clearly written. I know it's easy to say, it's hard to do. So it has to have relevance, pertinence, and cost effective. And that will assure the agency that you are a winner and that you are going to do a good proposal. And how proposals are rejected. The significance, the study does not address the problem. How is the scientific knowledge of the group? So, oh my God, I cannot see it. Sorry. So how the proposals are evaluated, significance. So the study addresses an important problem, how scientific is the knowledge, is it it's going to advance? Approach, is the design of the methodology are well developed, appropriate, and the problem areas are to address? Innovation, are there novel concepts and novel approaches? Investigator, is appropriately trained? Environmental, do scientific environment contribute to the probability of success? Are there unique features of the scientific environment that are gonna favor this? And the overall evaluation gives a score and reflects the impact of the field. So the proposals in international agencies have these 5 points that they are going to consider: the significance of your study, the approach or methodology design you propose, the innovation of concepts of approaches, whatever is new, the investigator, if he's well trained, and the environment of the scientific community. Do you have what it takes, the support that it takes to carry out this proposal? So it's going to be the criteria for evaluation. And how you will not be accepted it's not legible, it's not persuasive, the presentation is not tidy, it's disordered, it's not clear, it's very vague, general terms, it's not explaining specifically what you're going to do. Lack of planning, you don't have the methodology well prepared. Budget problems, when you don't have enough or have too much. Omission of supplemental materials like the letters, the collaboration, and the letter of the investigator, the CV. If you have weak recommendations, that doesn't speak very well of you, so be careful. You ask for a recommendation, you assume it's going to be a good one, and sometimes it's not. And lack of compliance with the deadline. So many agencies say this is due April 1st, and if it's not there April 1st, you send it April 1st after midnight, and it's not accepted. So just make sure that you have that in mind. But see how not to be accepted in general is when it's not clear, when it's not clearly written in a good order. You don't have to be proposing something exceptional in in very complicated language and very scientific. No, you just have to be clear, make it legible, make it logic, make it easy for the reviewer to follow, make it concise and concrete so the person doesn't get lost. So this helps when somebody from your team reads it and said, this is not clear, because it's clear for us because we've been doing it for a long time. And we write it and we write it and we understand it really well. And somebody else reads it and it's not persuasive, it's not logical, it just doesn't make much sense, or it has certain weak parts, then it really helps you have a proposal that has a chance to be funded. So again, get feedback is what I was saying. Present your work formally or informally, and it will reveal the gaps. You receive suggestions and you will write it. So it reveals what you're not considering that others can see clearly, because we are so immersed into our studies. Read the guidelines of the agency and review the checklist. One last time, make sure you have all the topics. And send it with all the attachments and in time. It's very important. And then you just have to be prepared for the reporting requirements. So just receive financing, you begin to work, which is kind of like, okay, well, now we got it. But you have to report. Many agencies send additional fundings not until after you presented a midterm report. I don't know what your case will be. They usually want to know how you're doing halfway before they send you more funding. And then interim and final reports, and put time in the chronogram to write these reports. If you did not receive funding, keep trying. Don't give up because you are in good company. It's not uncommon to be rejected. It's a learning process. Modify the proposal at the recommendations received and send it again. So ask for the recommendations. So this proposal is going to be reviewed by 2 or 3 people. Depends. Not only one, at least 2. And those 2 people are going to read it and are going to send their comments to the main agency, the main person running the funding or running the agency. This person is going to compare. The reviewers don't know each other. Each reviewer is going to be giving different opinions. Sometimes if the problem is obvious, both reviewers will have the same comments. But sometimes one reviewer sees something and one reviewer sees the other. Many times they contradict. Some reviewers said this project is fantastic, it should be funded, because they ask you, do you think this should be funded? And the other reviewer said, no, I don't think this is important or relevant, not funded. So the agency or the head has to decide for himself or herself if she is going to fund this or not, or maybe ask a third person to review it and give their opinion. So they send you back those reviews if they don't ask for them, because that's the only way you're going to learn. So by the comments that the reviewers make, when they say objectives are not clear, objectives are not feasible, methodology is not will not achieve what you're proposing, they're going to tell you what errors they found and why did they not fund you. So you learn a lot from that failure. You learn a lot from that rejection. You request for the recommendations, and then you modify your proposal and send it next time, or you send it to other agencies, government agencies or international agencies that might be willing to fund you, but this time you have more experience and you have a better proposal. So this is the end. Sorry it took so long and so much repetition. Do we accept questions now, Donnell, or we're too late and we continue? I don't know what we should do.
We can continue, ma'am, and then after the presentation, we have a question and answer portion.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to get the other talk. So I have only two short talks additional to this, which are one, the difference between impact and um, justification. And the other one is just a little bit more detail on the budget. So I don't know how to do this, don't know. Maybe here.
Number 2.
No, I need to open. Okay. Can you see it or should I share again?
Yes, ma'am, we can see the
You
presentation.
can see justification versus impact. Okay, so this is just 10 slides to talk about. Let's see if I could make it bigger, but I don't think I do. Huh. Well, I hope you see it well like this because it's not, no, it doesn't let me. Okay. The definition of justification. We're going to first talk about justification. It's the cause, motive, or reason that justifies. Convincing proof or something. Very important. Convincing proof or something. That means you have to have references. So when you justified your proposal, which is very important, the justification, sometimes there is a section separate, a justification section. I don't know how your proposals guidelines are. You have to have convincing proof of something. Justify is to prove something with convincing reasons, witnesses, and documents. So you prove something with convincing reasons and documents. That's how. That's what a justification means. So it's the why. Why are we going to do this? Why is this important? Why is this necessary? The justification is in the present and the moment and time. What is important here and now? And the impact is going to be in the future. So that's the main difference. Justification is the why we're doing it in this moment. What is the main need? What is the present need that we have? And why it's important to do it here and now, or in this particular area. So justification, why is your research important and why? Are there statistical data supporting your case? if it's applicable. Not all of it is statistical. Why is different from other work that has been done so far? Number 3. What is new? What is a new social opportunity if you're introducing a new technology, a new agricultural intervention at national level, international relevance? Because many times we do something at our level that could be applied to neighboring countries. How will your project make a difference? How does it contribute to solve the problem? So you don't have to answer all these questions for your justification, only 1 or 2. So you just have to show why it's difficult sometimes to put in words because we think it's important to do. We have to convince the reviewer that we have a new technology, new agriculture intervention, something that is applicable to others. We're going to solve this problem or attempt to solve a problem that exists, etc. So this is just some of the whys, some of the questions you have to answer when you're writing your justification. at the end of the introduction. And if you have preliminary results, if your own data from previous research findings is showing the need for a new research proposed, that's very valuable. That's really the most valuable. Include references from your past work or work from your collaborating team. And it's important to show your productivity and capacity to do the work you're proposing. So this is repeating what I said many times. You have to show you can do it and that you're ready to go. Well, an impact is very different. It's a collision of one projectile or object against something. Footprint or impression left. So effect of a strong force, sudden force. So it's like when a meteorite follows to Earth and it leaves an imprint, it leaves a big crater. That's the impact. So that's kind of like a dramatic impact. But that's how we have to see how our results are going to impact further than just our little work we did. It's an emotional blow due to disconcerting news. As the effect produced, oh my God, this is getting worse. Worse and worse. Effect produced in a public opinion or by an event, catastrophe, or disposition of the authorities. Environmental impact. Set of possible negative effects on the environment or a modification of a natural environment as a result of works of other activities. That would be an environmental impact. Or how to create an impact. Cause a physical impact to impress or disconcert due to new events. Well, that's a little bit exaggerated, but it's mainly an imprint that you're going to leave the scientific community after you do your work. How do I move further? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
I can present my desktop, ma'am.
Please present. This is crazy. I lost control of my computer. So I been having difficulties with my Dropbox and my files, and I have to present via internet. So we got ready and sent it to Donald so that he can present it for me. So we saw justification, definition, and preliminary results are important to justify, and then we're doing the impact. And now we're next. The one after this is, yes, impact is a proposal. What for? What we're going to do for? What is going to be important in the future? Economic, social, environmental, in short, medium or long term. So if it's immediate, it's short term, medium term, long term, it doesn't matter. It has to have some application in the future, some application, some new technology that we develop, some new findings that we have. So we can generate new knowledge and development by publications, patents, which usually are part of the university, new software we introduced, it, new scientific and new technological developments. We can have an impact in human resources, specialized studies, graduate work, master of doctorate thesis that we supported while doing the project, and we're going to have students, or a spread or socialization of knowledge, publications we're going to have, presentations, going to conferences, diffusion, community meetings, science versus community, transference of this technology to others, and sustainability. So those things are important. transfer and sustainability are important to the reviewers, to the funding agency. If this is transferable to other conditions, other communities, other students that are coming, and if it's sustainable and if it's going to last through the time. What is next? So the impact can be environmental. You're going to generate permits and licenses. You're going to build capacity. What do we hope our contribution will be when we obtain the results? Concretely and realistically, you're going to say these results are going to contribute in the knowledge of better growth of this particular class of coffee variety, and how we're going to give continuity to what we're proposing to do. That's also important for the agency. If this is going to continue generating data, continue training students, do we want to present another proposal to continue this work, because we had only just enough for a year and we need to continue. So we're proposing to do this. Next, I think that's so we have to imagine what and explain our expected results and their significance, our future directions. So not just say, oh, in the future this will be important. No. So you have to explain that in the future, these open studies, further studies to do this particular study or this particular variety or this other region we can study or compare. So our impact is also part of what's the new possibilities that are going to be open after we have our data, after we completed our proposal or project. Other related research, continuation of different aspects of the project, side findings that we obtain that we're going to pursue, and the limitations is an opportunity or potential for new research. So maybe we won't answer all the questions with this particular proposal, but we're going to open room for others. So this is the last slide. It's justification versus impact. So justification is in the present, while impact is in the future. Justification responds to actual scientific and social need now, while impact, your actions could go beyond the scientific and social context. Justification takes place in a defined and temporal space that we propose to study, and the impact, the application could be transcend further than the initial context, geographically, theoretical, new applications, and new technologies. So that's what differences each. And it's important to put the justification in your introduction when you finish presenting the data, presenting the references and opening the why, and the impact. It is presented when you are going to, at the end sometimes, or when you're going to do the when you're going to analyze the results or future results expected, and that's where you put your impact. These results will contribute to this and that and the other. And that's the last one. Donnell, if there's no questions, let's have the last one. It's getting late.
The last one,
It's the
Maria
number 4.
Elena, is the number 4. Yes.
so the budget. I just wanted to explain. Sometimes the budget is difficult for people to
Is
visualize.
this the presentation?
Yes, thank you. Donna, this is exactly it. So I don't know if it's too small or they can see it. So for the budget, you could have a separate table by categories or items. And then a justification for each item, which goes in a separate document. So you justify the methodology and you can arrange it by chapters, results, and the schedule you're going to have. So how long it's going to take you, what results you're going to be producing. Whoops, it disappeared. You're going to have to share again. Did we lose connection? Sorry.
Danelle, are you there?
I think we lost him. So
Yeah,
everybody,
maybe he has a problem with the connection.
so
Maybe we can continue.
okay. So I'll just continue. Let's see. Can I share this? I found my talk, but I don't know if I can share it. Anyway, you're gonna have these presentations given to you. And Donnell has them and he's gonna, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so so the budget, I was saying you have to justify each item by methods or not, but you divide it in chapters so it's clear according to your schedule. And depends on the funding source what they require, what restriction the agency has. Reallocation of margin items. Sometimes the agency allows you, if you put a lot of money for reagents that you didn't use it, can you transfer that money to trips, vehicles, gasoline, or training students? So it gives you a margin and you can ask the agency what it will be so you have more flexibility. And remember to include all items that you can use because you don't want to be out of funding for certain essential parts of methodology or materials. So the more detail you put, the more knowledge you have, but it gives you more plasticity. So the more you detail what are the budget categories that you're going to use, the more you're gonna demonstrate that you have knowledge, and then also maybe later you can change categories. So the categories generally for the funding agent are personnel and salary, salary supplementation, honorarium, consultancy, technicians, data administrator, field workers, per diems, very important, per diems for the field workers. Equipment, laboratory vehicles, computers, rent of equipment, you can request for all these things. Consumables, of course, reagents and plasticware, and be aware, plasticware, and be aware of the increased cost with time. You know, every year things are more expensive. So give yourself a 10% increased cost. Travel, national, international, presenting in Congress. It's important to be able to present your data and share with the community because it takes you a while to publish, which is very important to publish your findings so that all your effort is not lost. Um, so ask to go could be regional, national congress to present your data. Um, Cost of publishing, sometimes we put it, sorry, communications, I skip national, international, phone, internet. We can request funding for this. Publication, sometimes when we want to publish, they request funding, they request us to pay, so we can add that in the to the funding agency. Supplemental costs like laboratory work for specific tests has to be justified. If we want some elaborate tests or a specific machine to do tests, something that is very sophisticated, we have to have it well justified because it might be too expensive or it might be the only one in the country, and that is not sustainable. And administrative expenses, I was saying, well, here it says 20%. Sometimes agencies or universities charge more, but they usually permit um, 5% only the agency. So you have to find from the agency what um, the administrative expenses they accept, and then you put that in there. So the columns you have to by partnership if requested at each additional funding source, which I told you it's actually beneficial for the agency to know you have supplementary funding for what you want to do, which is kind of maybe more than what their budget will cover, and justify each item also, vehicle, collaborations, everything. So you're gonna write, for example, travel and allowances. So you're gonna write, we need $1,000 for travel and how much the travel costs for so many persons and for this many days. And we have to give per diem to this person. And it's important for them to travel because it's essential to the completion of the work, is essential for the collection of samples, is essential to train these people so they can assist. You have to justify why. So every little thing goes by a subtitle. Um, Travel, materials, laboratory materials, equipment, service the equipment. What is the last one? And how, who's gonna pay for the time it's not being used, if it's gonna be shared. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. It's time for me to stop. And these are examples of budgets and how you calculate and you remember everything that you're gonna use. And sometimes you don't request the total, you request part of it because the university is gonna put the other part. Um, by a statistician, very important. Um, Another travel, how many vehicles, how many trips, total cost requested, international travel, if allowed, local travel, how much is gonna cost, and justification, why it is necessary, why cannot be done locally, Congress costs cover the presentation and the meeting is accepted. So all these things you can add to the budget if you wanna go to a conference and present your data. Um, surveys, total costs, phone calls, communications were now that became less expensive with all the new modes of internet that we have. Um, so other, like usually the justification of the budget goes in a separate section as a narrative. It doesn't go in each item of the budget. The budget is done on a chart, and then you have a document separate says justification of the budget, and you divide the budget by categories and then list each expense and justify the budget by category or methodology. Take into account the restriction given by the funding agency. Many agencies don't fund transport, don't fund travel, um, don't fund salary, supplemental salary, especially for the main researcher, the principal investigator. That's not allowed, but it's allowed to give funding for technicians and assistants. And be aware of the rules and margin given for changes in the category, how flexible they are. Sometimes you can change 20% from one category to the other. Like if you need more travel, more vehicles, you can change reagents for that, and it's allowed up to a percent, usually 20%. And I think that's the end. Well, no, it's not. um, so the justification, why it's necessary. Um, sorry. Um, which general expressions, institution counterpart, which I was saying is it's important, and sometimes there are unexpected expenses in the project. Do not leave the budget until the end because you're going to forget how much it costs. So when you're writing objectives and material and methods and what are you going to do, the methodology, write separate, have it by hand or whatever you want, a budget, and just list the items so you don't forget them. And then you can calculate the cost later. But if you leave it till you finish writing the proposal, then you have to go back and you're going to miss many important items. So if you have multiple partners, how include the columns, so how much each is going to contribute. Identify additional funding sources and contribution, travel, number of trips, airplane ticket, meals per diem, justify equipment, indirect costs. I already said that, sorry. And this is just an example of a justification. So the lead, Dr. Jane, is the team will be primarily responsible for providing guidance to the country. Dr. Doe is an expert and conducted her doctorate, and we need very recognized, and we need the expertise of this person. That's a bit too long for our justification, but you have to explain like group A and group B. So group B will be coordinating the region of the health network, and we propose to share the management, and we request for each group to coordinate. So this is an example of a justification of budget when there is two teams or two groups. So what is group B gonna do? And what is group A gonna do? And how much is gonna cost? So group B is the one that's gonna be collaborating. Group A is the one that you're gonna receive funding. And that's always a plus for the agency. Okay, I think this is indeed the end. I'm over time already. I apologize. Questions, comments? Dr. Ryan, I don't know if you want to add or change something. No questions. We are all very tired.
No,
I think
thank you.
Donald is back.
That was very good. Thank you,
Go ahead.
Dr. Peñaranda.
Hi, hi.
Oh,
So sorry, I was lost. My connection was lost. But
yes.
yes, Maria Elena, there are some questions here from our participants.
We continue without you. Sorry,
Yeah.
but I was able to load it up again. This being a big headache
My
for me.
apologies. Okay, here's one question from Central Mindanao, Ma'am Carolina Amper. She's a faculty of Central Mindanao University. Here's her question. How important is the academic background or training of the project lead or investigator in getting approval from an international funding agency?
Very important. It's one of the main issues they're gonna check. They advise, or in general, if you don't have the full expertise, you're not fully trained, you're gonna be traveling somewhere to be trained by the expert, or you're gonna collaborate with this expert that's gonna come to you, which is even better because he can train several people, or you're gonna be coached by this expert in each step of the way and in this particular methodology. So if you don't have the full extent of the expertise to complete the project, you have to show that you have the collaboration from a person that knows and have a letter of collaboration from that person. That's what's advised. The
Thank
agency
you.
wants to know you're going to do it and that you are not going to start trying to figure out how to. The agency wants to assure that the money is going to do to finish the project like you're proposing. You have to have the expertise. Sorry, go ahead.
We have a question also here from Mr. Oliver, Michael Nareto. His question is, what specific field in agriculture economics that we can focus? Is it in production side or in marketing side?
I don't have the answer to that. What is the question again?
What specific field in agriculture economics that we can focus? Is it in production side or in marketing side?
No, either one, production or marketing. It depends on the agency. Since I am just a consultant, you will have to ask the people giving the funds, either government agency or the coffee consortium. Both are relevant, but it depends on the person giving the funds, if they want managing or they want marketing, and both are valid. So I don't have an answer for you.
I'm requesting other participants. If you have questions, you can share it to us. It's already 10:09, so do you have any questions?
Okay.
So I think there is not. I think Ma'am Miriam, Ma'am
So
Miriam Baltazar. Yeah.
okay.
Hi.
Sige, hello, good morning, Ma'am Elena. I just noticed a while ago that you mentioned about the abstract. So do we really need to put the abstract in the proposal?
Yes, it's very important because the reviewer is going to read it first and it's going to determine if it's worth going forward and reading the rest. And the abstract should not be very difficult once you finish writing your proposal. And the abstract you can copy, for example, the beginning of the introduction. When you introduce, you can copy it because it has to be a representation of your proposal. So you can copy the introduction, the first sentence, first couple sentences, that what is the topic and why it's important. You can copy general objective and specific objectives. So you just make a mini proposal of what you already wrote, and you can copy your general objective and explain briefly your specific objectives. And then you can explain the methodology. The abstract does not have references, so the reviewer will have to read the text for the references. So then you explain the methodology in a paragraph. We're gonna do this method, which is called so-and-so, developed by so-and-so,
Mhm.
we are going to adapt it this way, and we're going to make these modifications, and we're not going to do this many experiments in this particular setting. And then why, the justification, another, sentence or two, important to know. The growth of coffee in these particular conditions are not known. And this, what will be the impact? This will help future crops to grow better, future growers to improve their methodology, and it will impact in the country. That will be your after. Everything you
Yeah.
already wrote.
Yeah, thank
But
you. But most of the funding agencies, at least in our experience, do not require the abstract. So it's not really
okay,
necessary to put if they do not require that
perfect.
section.
Yes, it depends on the agency. Totally. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
no need to do it if it's not required.
Thank you.
So I think we can entertain another
Yes.
question. I think none.
Okay.
I think there are questions and I think some proposal in the chat box, Donald, like I see one here from the BSU, the Benguet State University. You can check it further up. They're asking if they can collaborate with the World Coffee Research in writing articles and publishing it, since they have the results for their Arabica research.
Totally.
Noted, sir.
Yes.
Sorry, my chat history was lost when I lost my
I'm
connection.
sorry. Yeah, so
So
yeah,
I have
I'll read it for you.
a
I'll read it for you.
good thing I have
Okay.
captured the previous questions before my internet connection was lost.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the question. So I think it's directed to you since you're from WCR.
So can you
Um,
repeat?
Yeah. So the question is coming from the Benguet State University. They are asking if they can collaborate with the World Coffee Research in writing articles about Arabica coffee, since they already have the results of their Arabica coffee research.
Of course.
so they want it be published in an
Yeah, they're asking
international
if they can
publication.
collaborate with you. Yeah.
We'll get back to you, and then I'll share this with Craig, and we'll help Benguet State University in their article publication.
And we have another question here from Kalinga State University. Yeah. So they are asking if can Kalinga State University collaborate with other universities and colleges in the conduct of the multi-location variety trials for Robusta. So they're hoping that WCR can provide them with planting materials.
Mhm. Currently, we will be establishing an international multi-location varietal trial, but it's Arabica. But I would like to share this with Craig, since for this year we'll be establishing an international multi-location varietal trial. We'll be bringing at least 22 varieties from different countries to test the varieties here in the Philippines, and assess whether they are suitable to be planted here in the Philippines, and will be coordinating with BPI for the registration, so that we can have additional varieties, registered varieties, here in the Philippines for Arabica. And we'll try to share this to Craig regarding the Robusta from Kalinga State University. We'll get back once I have a reply or from Craig or anyone from WCR. But it is sure that we'll be establishing IMLVT for Arabica.
Good.
Are there any questions or Manny?
Yeah, I think that's it for all the questions that was raised in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you very much, Maria Elena. We are very
You're welcome.
grateful for that wonderful sharing. And this workshop will surely improve the faculty researchers' writing skills to ensure that they will gain support from the research funding agencies. And here in the Philippines, ma'am, the universities have far greater share of research capacity than the other government, especially in the government agency. And here, the research planning and funding body is the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development, or PICARD. It is sit under the Department of Science and Technology. And this is very timely also because I think the Phil Cafe is looking also for proposals from state universities that has to be original, that really can contribute for the coffee sector or the coffee industry in the Philippines. And there are some questions here, ma'am, that our faculty is raising. They are requesting if they can have the presentation or your PowerPoint presentation. Is it okay that I'll share this to the participants?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, we're open source and we want you to use it and use it to teach, use it to remember certain points of interest and to share with others.
Okay, so to the participants, it is important. I have sent the Google form in the chat box earlier. Kindly fill it out so that I can, because it's asking about your name, your designation, and then your institution as well as your email address, so that I can send to you the presentation. So with that, ma'am, we would like to share this.
Oh.
Okay. So we'd like to present this certificate of appreciation to you, Ma'am Maria Elena Peñaranda, PhD, of the Scientific Director of Sustainable Sciences Institute, for sharing your expertise and knowledge as resource speaker to the faculty researchers of PhilCafe Partner State Universities and Colleges of the Philippines with the topic Writing a Good Research Proposal during the virtual proposal writing and development workshop on March 10, 2021. Given this 10th day of March 2021, signed Craig Kraft, PhD, Asian Africa Director of World Coffee Research, TJ Ryan, Chief of Party, PhilCafe Project. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. That's very nice. I really like it. I like the background. How can I save it? You send it to me?
Yes, ma'am. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope it was helpful, and Craig is going to share some of the finished proposals with me later.
Yes. Yes. So I would like to also ask Hilda for the PhilCafe to send the proposals that our state universities have been sending, so that Ma'am Maria Elena, Craig, and other WCR employees will be evaluating or helping Ma'am Maria Elena to do comments, to review the proposals.
Noted, Don.
Thank you, ma'am. So
bye-bye. Thank you.
So we are down to our last part of the program. I know it's late. Okay. It's already 10:20. So my apologies, especially to our speaker. I know it's a late evening there, in Costa Rica. So with that, I would like to call Ma'am Dr. Miriam Baltazar from Cavite State University. She is the PhilCafe coordinator in Cavite State University to have her closing remarks.
Sorry, I'm off. Hi, good morning. Good morning to our resources speaker, Dr. Peñaranda. Good morning to our Phil Cafe head, TJ Ryan, also the Phil Cafe staff, and of course the participants from the different institutions. So good morning from the Philippines. At first I was a bit hesitant to encourage our faculty members to join the workshop because I was entertaining in my mind that we already know this topic as we host training workshops in research proposal writing every now and then. And also many of our faculty members are able to acquire funding from national as well as international funding agencies. But suddenly, I reasoned that there must be something new from this workshop. So there must be something that we need to hear that we usually do not hear from our fellow researchers from the university or fellow researchers from the Philippines. And the more that I got convinced when I heard that our speaker is from Sustainable Science Institute who advocates research sustainability. Okay, so this is one thing that Phil Cafe, TJ Ryan kept on telling us when we were developing our proposals for funding submitted to ACDI. So he kept on asking us, what is the sustainability of your research? So how would you make your project sustainable? And so true enough, through your talk, we learned something new. We learned many, many things, such as putting upfront those new things in the title, help the evaluators by writing the proposals properly. Also, your mathematical approach of presenting the introduction, like if there's an increase in X, is there any decrease in Y or in X, or increase or decrease in Y? It's a teaching method that we can use in our research class, no? And you also gave emphasis on the baseline impact and expected impact of the study, the basis of proposal evaluation, giving emphasis on the potential discovery, the detailed presentation of justification versus impact. So those are just some of the new things we learned from you. And I'm sure the participants also confirmed that they learned a lot from you today. So most of the examples you mentioned were actually submitted by us.
Yes.
And yeah, we
I
hope that,
apologize for the
yes,
mistake.
we hope that we did not give you hard time evaluating them. But how we wish we heard your talk before we developed the proposal, so that the 5-month proposal writing, submission, and evaluation was reduced to 2 months only. So, but nonetheless, thank you so much for imparting your knowledge to us. Actually, it's not late after all, because writing research proposal is life for us researchers. Yeah, thank you so much. And also, in behalf of Phil Cafe family, Cavite State University, and all the participants, we thank you so much for this opportunity to learn from you. Thank you, thank you. And also, we'd like to take this opportunity na din to greet the man behind Phil Cafe. Happy birthday, Sir TJ Ryan. Yeah, we wish you success, and we wish you Phil Cafe success. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc Miriam.
Yeah.
Thank you. Donnell?
Sorry, I have your hand open. With that, thank you very much. Happy birthday, Sir TJ. And to our speakers and to all the participating state universities and colleges here in the Philippines, thank you very much. So don't forget to accomplish the Google form, so that we can be able to send the presentation to you. And I hope this virtual workshop on writing research proposals would really help you in terms of proposal making, especially for your coffee. And with that, would like to end this workshop. And then maybe we can reach you after this workshop. I know you have sent proposals. Then we will be I will be communicating with you the results of the review of our speaker and from the WCR regarding your proposals for improvement. So we'd like to thank you very much. Wherever you are right now, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Maybe you can you, I would like to request if you can turn on your camera for picture taking. So there are, I need your patience since there are 4 batches of this because we are 100. So 100 participants in this virtual workshop. So I would like you to please turn on your camera. So I'll be capturing the first batch. Smile. Okay, for the second batch, please smile again. Okay, there are some cameras that are still turned off. Okay.
Hilda.
Okay. The next batch, please smile. And the last one. Okay. Okay, that ends our virtual workshop. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope that we'll have an increase or we have an improvement of the coffee industry because of this. Thank you very much.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Mr. DJ. Thank you, Phil Cafe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Sir Donald. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
KJ. Thank you, Ma'am Elena.
Thank you, Miriam. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Nel. Thank you.
Bye bye.